Everybody. I just want to welcome you all to our live Zoom here. And my name's Marvin. I've been in this industry for 25 years. I'm a graduate with GIA, and I want to bring on a friend of mine that I have known for quite some time. He's been in the business for 40 years, and he is a fellow of Gemological Association in Great Britain and also a graduate gemologist here in America. He started in the wholesale business and has now launched a online business known as Jupiter Gem. Krishna, can you tell us a little bit about how you came into this business and how you went from Sri Lanka all the way to America and became a very successful wholesaler and online marketer here in America?
Hello, Marvin. Yes, my gemstone journey started, um, as you mentioned, in Sri Lanka. I was born and raised in Sri Lanka. And growing up, I noticed most of the people involved in the business are a family business, but I had nobody around me, neither my parents or friends. Nobody were involved, but I was very intrigued by it. So while I was trying to become an accountant, believe it or not, I saw an opportunity to learn about gems by joining a course offered by Sri Lankan Gem Authority, and it was a 6 months course. Loved it so much because mostly we spent a lot of time going to the different areas the gems were produced and looking at the rough stones and the natural formations were more fun than even cut gemstones. After finishing that, I persuaded my parents to send me to London, and that's where I really learned more about the chemical compositions, the crystallography, how to identify cut gemstones from the fake ones, and how to assess color, clarity, the cut quality, and why one particular 5 carat gemstone is more expensive than the other 5 carat, and all that stuff. And after finishing the FGA, which is Fellow of Gemological Association of Great Britain, my next step was uh, coming to US because US is where all the business is going on. So came to at that time the Gemological Association of or GIA Gemological Institute of America was in Santa Monica, California. So I landed in Santa Monica and did the GIA course, became a graduate gemologist, and started my journey learning the trade. Went to work for one of the leading wholesale suppliers in Los Angeles, worked for them for 11 years, learned all about the trade before taking over the same business that I work for. And here I am, 27 years later, still in the business, still learning every day. It's this business you learn every day because there's gemstones coming from so many different localities, so many different treatments. That's what we have seen in the last 20 years. It's earlier when I came into the business, sapphires is just only heat treatment, which had been going on for 500 years. But now we have all these other treatments and other origins. But it's a fun business. You end up learning every day. And besides that, my other learning process is 10 or 12 years ago, we started an online business called Jupiter Gem. And that's where I learned even more interacting with the buying public and what they really want. Because but once you are in the wholesale side, you are usually dealing with designers and jewelry stores. But here I'm exposed to the buying public. and what they're really looking for, and how to fulfill their needs. And that's where I think I have learned even more. So, yeah, that's in a nutshell my.
That's an amazing journey there, Krishna. And that's phenomenal that all of us have this story behind how we entered into the gemstone business. And that story there, we could go on and on and on and on about how long that took to get to where you're at right now. One
Okay.
of the other things that I wanted to talk about real quick here with you, Krishna, is tell us a little bit about the significance that the island of Sri Lanka, formerly known as Ceylon,
Right.
is to the global market when it comes to gemstones.
So, Marvin, Sri Lanka is really the most important origin for global color gemstones. Out of 200 known varieties of color gemstones, 75 of them come out of Sri Lanka. And we surpass, when I say we, mean Sri Lanka surpasses any other country. Other two countries even come close is Brazil and um, Myanmar, formerly called Burma, but Sri Lanka produces not only sapphires, but spinels and every variety of known variety of garnets, aquamarines, tourmalines, cat's eyes, and many other rare gemstones that are only unique to Sri Lanka. So, Sri Lankan, uh, the significance in gem industries outpaces any other country that's currently producing gemstones. And Sri Lankan gem cutters and gem merchants have a vast knowledge that only can come by dealing with all these different variety of gemstones.
That's
And, that,
amazing that an
and,
island that
and
sorry.
that's why with this new market that's opening now for in Africa, the biggest buyer of rough gemstones are Sri Lankans because we understand almost all the varieties. Yes.
Yeah. Like what I was saying, Krishna, that is amazing that an island that is not the hugest place in the world produces that variety of gemstones. So of those stones, which stones have you specialized in? I know that you specialize in just about all of them, but the ones that you have really been, uh, that you've really taken an expert eye to, whether it was spinels, alexandrites, and sapphires. Tell us a little bit about which ones you really have a passion for.
So obviously, when I got into the business, I was mostly intrigued and specialized in blue sapphire because it's came plentiful from Sri Lanka, and the trade needed it and started liking it. But naturally, over the years, I started specializing in more rare sapphires like Patparasha, and I'm one of the specialists in Patparasha for last 15 years. Um, I have a vast collection of Patparashas from half a carat all the way to 5 carats. Now, occasionally we see 10 and 12 carats, but majority of the time it's half carat to 5 carat. Either it's heated or unheated, and all of them have reports. And the other gemstone I love to collect and also specialize is Sri Lankan alexandrites. Now, Sri Lankan alexandrites are really the major source for alexandrites after Russia until the Brazilian deposit opened up in 1960s. So even right now, the Brazilian deposit is completely depleted, and Sri Lanka is a major producer of natural alexandrites. So right now, besides carrying most sapphires that come out of Sri Lanka. We have all the colors blue, yellow, pink, orange, and all that, except green sapphire. But I specialize in Patparasha, which is the orangish pink, and the Alexandra.
Mm. Those are two definitely very rare gemstones and go to some of the most amazing collectors and large auction houses all over the world.
Yeah.
So, going back to the mining areas for some of these gemstones out of Sri Lanka, tell us a little bit about some of the areas that produce some of the most intriguing and rare gemstones out of Sri Lanka.
So, uh, again, the most famous mining area is called Ratnapura. So, it's literally the translation is city of gems. Ratna in Sanskrit is gems, and Pura is city. So, Ratnapura is the city of gems. Now, Sri Lanka is almost um, like it's almost 25,000 square meters, the whole land size of Sri Lanka. Out of that, almost 70% of the land is gem bearing. It's either you're going to get either sapphires, spinels. It's very rich soil with all kind of gems. So Ratnapura, it's in the middle of the country. It has the most gems that being mined. But besides that, Avisavala, Nivitigala, Ehaliagoda, Pelmadula, Balangoda, they're all in the Sabragama province. They're all around Ratnapura and they all produce gemstones. But if you go to the south, we have moonstone mines, which are the best in the world.
Really? I always thought moonstone was more from India. So some of the best
Oh,
moonstone is from Sri Lanka, huh?
this moonstone with blue sheen still comes from Sri Lanka.
Hmm.
And also, the rest of the island have gems, but Sri Lankan government is still encouraging the mining to be done in more traditional ways, so to protect the environment. And being a small island, I would say we are still not completely explored for gemstones. But
Hmm.
so the answer is yes, Ratnapura is still the king, where all the gems come from, but and then the surrounding areas.
And what about cutting centers? Where are the most of the gemstones cut?
So on in ancient times, this the in Sri Lanka now in Sri Lanka the gems are coming from in the recorded history. Sri Lankan gems have been mined this even old as third BC, and so and
Wow.
and they have in and also in the ancient times in the recorded history, different people have mentioned Ptolemy and several other writers. The gemstone cutting was done by Arab traders who settled on the coast of Sri Lanka.
Okay.
Gaul, Bentota, and all these areas. And so they would go to the center of the country, buy the gemstones, and bring it to uh, the coastal areas, and they would cut it in a very traditional way. It's all handmade tools, and they would fashion it mostly for yield to get the bigger stone out of the rough. And then they were shipped through Arab trade ships that came to the rest of the world. But
Wow. So
uh,
so they were cutting these gemstones back then. In what year you were saying?
oh, in the recorded history, it's Sri Lankan gem mining is going on from third BC. So
Wow.
according to the popular law that King Solomon has given to Queen Sheba, jewelry started with Sri Lankan gemstones, and now that's almost third BC, and then 30 centuries later, King Charles gave Queen Lady Diana a 12-carat blue sapphire, and that's in 1980s. So
And that was a Sri Lankan stone as
Sri
well, right?
Lankan stone, yes. So
Mm.
you can see 30 centuries, and Sri Lanka is still producing famous gemstones in between Romans, Greeks, even Egyptians. All these royalties have bought Sri Lankan gemstones and uh, gave to their queens or royal
Royal
collection.
families.
Yes, and then the most famous is now the British who ruled Sri Lanka before independence, and they have one of the biggest collection of Sri Lankan sapphires, spinels, and all that.
And I believe also there was a princess now that got engaged with a either a pink sapphire or Padparaja as well.
Yes,
So
Queen Beatrice.
there's been been so much history going on in Sri Lanka. It's amazing that they are still mining gemstones from the 3 BC all the way till today. They're still mining gemstones. And the reason probably that there still is mining is that it is done in that old way of doing it to preserve the environment, correct, Krishna?
Totally. And also, Marvin, another thing I like to bring it up is Sri Lankan deposits are not primary deposits. They are all secondary deposits for the gemstones.
So is
So
that alluvial or is that
exactly. These
mhm.
are all alluvial, and there's no real primary deposits. So alluvial deposits are the most occurring in the island, and still the mining is done by tunneling or pit mining, open pit mining, and they use mostly hand tools to do the mining, and that's what encouraged in Sri Lanka. So it protects the environment. Now there is a little bit of river dredging is going on, and there the government has allowed some mechanized mining in the rivers. But again, the deposits are all alluvial secondary deposits. That's why most of the gems comes out of Sri Lanka are very, very vibrant. These are pebbles, water-worn pebbles,
Mm.
and it has been running around the rivers and alluvial pits for millions of years. And so they are unique. It's very bright, much better crystal clarity, and they once you fashion them, they become world-class gemstones.
Yeah, we've always noticed that, there's all these other sapphires from different locations, but all the while we see a stone from Sri Lanka that might actually look like a Burma sapphire or a Kashmiri sapphire because they're so bright.
Yes,
So it's hard sometimes to look at a blue sapphire from Sri Lanka and go, wow, that stone is so bright. It looks like a Kashmir or a Burma, right?
very true, very true. Sri Lankan sapphires are confused with other famous mines, like you mentioned, Kashmir now, and Burma. And now, lately, a lot of gemstones coming out of Madagascar too, blue sapphires. But Sri Lankan stones are just on their own.
They are.
Yes.
That's amazing. So, I think I had a couple other questions here for you, Krishna.
Uh,
The the major sapphires, besides the ones, I know that we talked about some of the ones that you have really been involved in. What are some of the major sapphires or gemstones that you've been involved in that you have been able to buy while you go back home into Sri Lanka?
Being in the industry for 40 years, several interesting stones have passed through my hands. And one of the things comes to my mind is 20 karat flawless unheated patparasha. Now,
Oh, yes.
like I mentioned earlier, I specialize between half carat to 5 carat. Even a 10 carat is hard. And yes, that's one of the largest Patparasha sapphires I have ever handled, over 20 carat, a true lotus color, uh, unheated, it's a real pinkish orange stone. And then also for a collector, it took me a few years to find one. I've sold a blue sapphire, flawless blue sapphire in cushion cut, over 70 carats.
70 carats.
70
Wow.
carats, flawless. I would call the color being a fine royal blue and again, unheated. And also, I think I have sold to one particular collector 300 carat plus yellow sapphires, all unheated. I wish I
One
had
stone, 300 carats?
one stone, 300 carats. Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, so some very, very unusual stones have passed through my hand. Now, I tried to broker a sale on a 120 carat Sri Lankan Alexandrite. It never happened, but I tried to make a deal go through. So that's another larger stone I have seen, which a Sri Lankan origin, Alexandrite.
Well, those are amazing stones. Those are stones that you personally have been involved with.
Yes.
So how about some of the most famous sapphires that have come out of Sri Lanka? Maybe a few that you can think of.
So, Sri Lanka have um, the proud record holder for the three largest sapphires that ever to come out. And one of them is Logan Sapphire, the Blue Bell, the Giant of Orient. These are
Wow.
these are all between 400 and 466 carats. And I believe the Logan Sapphire, uh, which is about 423 carats, it's right now in Smithsonian. And the largest star sapphire ever to come out is almost 1,400 carat star sapphire from Sri Lanka. And yeah, so Sri Lanka has produced some very, very large blue sapphires over the years. I can go on, and I think there are several very large stones, but the largest three are all between 400 carat plus, and all of them are Sri Lankan stones.
All right. Well, thank you so much. If you don't mind, Christian, could you actually give us a little bit of a breakdown on the stones out of Sri Lanka that and their hardnesses and what you would recommend? Yeah, I know a lot of people are getting engaged with sapphires and alexandrites and rubies. But can you give us a little bit of a breakdown on which ones that you would recommend for day-to-day use and which ones you would use for maybe an engagement ring and just a little quick breakdown on that?
So, Marvin, sapphires, the hardness in most scale is 9. So, only harder material than sapphires are diamonds. So, sapphires are the best to wear as engagement ring, day to day. So, I would classify all these colors, blue, yellow, pink, purple. Lately, we are seeing an uptick in all these. Earlier, it was only blue sapphire, but last 10 years, we are even selling purples and pinks and yellows as engagement rings and, or as a anniversary, people are using that as center stones. But then comes spinners. Now, spinels from Sri Lanka, I know now Myanmar or Burma produces some beautiful red spinels, and Tanzania produces this hot pink mahenge. But Sri Lanka, believe it or not, still produces some gorgeous blue, cobalt blue, and a different type of pink, which is like a little bit less vibrant than mahenge, but still a very open color pink and purple spinels. And right after spinels, spinels are eight, but in between spinels and sapphires are chrysoberyls, facetable chrysoberyls. These are hardness is 8.5, gorgeous stones. They come in yellow, green, and green, and these are very wearable, very hard stones. And when they have enough chromium and vanadium, they are called alexandrites. They change color from green to red. And I would say even some of the garnets coming out of Sri Lanka, unusual colors in red and orange, being used in day-to-day jewelry. So there's a lot of variety. If you are looking for engagement rings or day-to-day wear, there's a lot of variety of gemstones and a lot of options that Sri Lanka produces.
So, anyways, I would like to wrap it up and thank everybody that joined. We will also have this on YouTube later and other ways for you to actually ask more questions. But thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to come back and educate some more on different places and different locations. And Krishna has a lot of expertise in all kinds of places. He's been to Brazil, where I'm from, and he's been all over, I'm sure, certain areas of Southeast Asia and even probably into Africa and Thailand and all that. So if you have any more questions, let us know in the comment section, and we will be more than happy to keep you in the loop about all the great things when it comes to gemology, gemstones, and so forth. Did you have any other things that you'd like to add in there, Krishna?
No, Marvin, I think we really had uh, a thorough review of about Sri Lanka, the history, the law, and what's going on right now. But only thing I would add on is over the last few years, Sri Lankan cutting industry has become exceptionally world class. So the stones coming out of Sri Lanka are all fashioned in Sri Lanka, and you will be surprised uh, how how the cutting is done and how it will make your jewelry look even more better. So although Thailand was a cutting center for a long time, we have caught up, and so that would be another thing to add on.
We'll definitely have some follow-ups to this information and keep you talking about all the great things that have to do with gemstones. Gemstones really cover every facet in the world. It covers the geometry when it comes to cutting. It covers the chemistry when it comes to the makeup, right? It covers the geography of where the gemstones are from. And it also covers all the neat stories that we get to hear from people like Krishna and all the experts that have been around this industry for so long. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Maureen. Thanks, everyone.